the best and most cheated certification in cybersecurity. First of all, why you should be aware on which exam are the most cheated and which one are the best. You have to be aware that 90% of the exam in cybersecurity they can be cheated. Either you can buy the solutions online or you can find someone to do the exam for you remotely, even for the proctored exams. And I know because I've been helping people cheating exam for the past 1.5 year. And let's dive into it. Why you should be aware. So the most cheated exam are the ones that help you get the job. So most people that cheat the exam, they, unlike people that work in cybersecurity and people that are really passionate about cybersecurity, they don't really care about passion. They just want the exam that is going to get them the job as soon as possible, as fast as possible. So the most cheated exams are also the one that are best to get a job quickly. And they're easier to pass. They easy to pass because the one that are most cheated, you can always find more resources out there because they are the one that they attract more interest from people. So you can always find free resources, paid resources. You can find solutions. You can find old machines. You can always find for free. Something like, for example, the OSCP, which is one of the most cheated exams. You can always find resources either for free or paid. You can buy all the machines, even the newer machines, and you can always find old machines as well for free online. And that's because there's a lot of interest in OSCP because it's one of the best exams that you can do to find a job as a penetration tester in cybersecurity. And also, the other thing you should be aware of is that you need to get these exams done before organizations catch up. So the right now, one thing is happening in cybersecurity. A lot of people are entering the industry and they have little to no experience and they are getting all this intermediate to advanced level certificate. So once organizations, and I mean companies, they catch up with this thing, they will stop putting any value into these exams. So you need to get them done now and get your job before companies catch up to this thing. And let's let's see what you should avoid when you are selecting the exam you're going to do, your first exam or the next exam you're going to do to progress in cybersecurity. So the biggest issue that people make is that they choose based on the budget. This is the biggest mistake you can make. Choosing based on how much you are comfortable spending, choosing based on how much what you can afford, this is the worst thing you can ever do because not only choosing based on budget is not going to get you any progression in your career, but is also going to harm you in the long term because the time and the time you spend on preparing for this exam, you could have spent on any other exam that can guarantee you to get a job after you complete it. And many people say that the intermediate or advanced level exam they require more time or more knowledge or more experience to complete, but that's not true. First of all, I just told you that hundreds of people have been entering cybersecurity with no experience, and they have been getting the intermediate level certificates such as OSCP, and that's true cheating, but also these exams by themselves, if you really want to study for them, they don't require more than a couple of months of studying. And I can guarantee that because I also only studied a couple of months to get my OSCP. Another thing that you should not do is choose based on your perceived skill level. This is the thing. If you're in cybersecurity or if you're trying to join and you go out there, you go on LinkedIn or you go read blog posts, you go on Reddit, everyone will tell you that if you're a beginner, you should start with the beginner level certificate. The advanced level or the intermediate level certificate are too difficult. You cannot do them. You need to learn the foundation first. Most people, for example, if you're a complete newbie, they will tell you that you need to go and learn like the basics of Linux before you even consider becoming a pen tester. That's complete bullshit. The basics of Linux is something that you can learn in seconds. Whenever you are on a penetration test and you're using Kali, because everyone uses Kali to conduct penetration tests, you can, if you don't know how to do something, you can Google search anything you need to do with Linux. There's no secret. everything is one Google search away. And that's also true for most of the tasks that you need and most of the knowledge that you need as a penetration tester. Not everything is one Google search away, but most of the things is one Google search away. So you should not choose your next exam based on what you think is your current skill level. The exam, because there's a preparation to it, should be to upgrade your skill level, not based on your current skill level. That's why newbies try to go for OSCP with no experience, because they're trying to prove that they have the skill level, regardless of whether they're cheating or not. They're trying to prove that they have the skill level. They try to show that they have the skill level necessary to get the job. There's no point for you to do the junior exam because you will never land a job with those. And even if you land a job with those, it will not be the job that you're looking for. Another thing to avoid is don't choose based on random advice on YouTube, Google, or anything, any blog post, I can tell you 99% of the people out there, even the people that have been working in the industry, they don't know what they're talking about. The industry is full of dinosaurs. People that are currently working in this industry, they got their job the old way. They got their job by doing the junior exam first, by spending years studying and working at a junior level job or at a analyst job before they even got into pen testing. So you should not listen to their advice. There is a way to get into cybersecurity, to become a penetration tester fast. And personally, it took me 3 months to join cybersecurity as a penetration tester when I first started, because I skipped all the basic certificate and I went from a non-tech job to a full role as a penetration tester in 3 months. And if I can do it, anyone can do it. And there's no skill issue. There's no such thing as not having enough skill to complete a penetration test. 99% of the skill required is learned on the job. So now let's see at which exam you should actually avoid. So these are the things that you should consider when you're looking for an exam. You should avoid all CompTIA exams. So A+, Security+, CISA+, CASP+, also. All the CompTIA exams, they are complete trash. First of all, you don't learn anything. Even if you, let's say you buy the voucher for a CompTIA exam for what, like $400 or $300. You spend 3 months studying for the exam, and then you take the exam. First of all, you don't learn anything because the exam is only multiple choices exam. Second of all, no employer actually values this exam for a good job position in cybersecurity. Especially for like pen testing, no one is looking at the CompTIA certification. If you want to become a penetration tester, they will all be looking at OffSec exam, or depending on where you live, also there are some other specific exams. For example, in the UK, they will be looking at CRT, but those are like more advanced. You cannot actually take CRT if you are a junior. But CompTIA exams or any other junior exam, and we'll have a look at the exams in a second, you should avoid them, especially CompTIA exam. There is no employer that will give you a good job. There is no job. If you go out there and you search for the job that you want to apply, I can guarantee you that CompTIA exam, the CompTIA certification will not be a requirement for those jobs. And if it is in the requirement, it's because the position have like a very, very wide range of salary, and you will be at the lowest end of the range of the salary for the position. Another thing you should avoid is avoid doing random unknown exams. I saw people choosing the exam based on how the certificate look. If the certificate have like a very good looking icon or something like that, they will choose that exam. Or if they think the name sounds cool, avoid all the random certificate. Avoid doing the exam that you never heard of. Avoid doing the exam that no one ever talk about. They're just a complete waste of time. They're not going to get you anywhere. They're not going to help you land a job. They're not going to help you progress in your career. All junior exam, you should avoid them. So we're going to look at the junior exam in a second, and I'll tell you exactly which one to avoid. But every exam that is meant for junior, you should avoid. Unless what you're trying to do is trying to get the junior position, I guess, but there's no reason, because by the time you are ready and you study for these exams, you can study for an intermediate exam in the same amount of time. And of course, you could always cheat the intermediate one if you are not ready. Uh, and then you can back the skill, because the thing is that even if you go for an intermediate or an advanced level certificate, and I recommend for complete newbies or for people that don't have that much experience to go for an intermediate exam, you could always back up the skill if you have the basic knowledge. So the basic knowledge is all you need to back up the skill of an intermediate exam. Something like OSCP from OFSEC, you can back the knowledge of OSCP with minimal studying or only with the basics in some circumstances. And I'll get into that in a second. Another thing that you should avoid when you're looking at exam, the exam you should avoid is exams that are never mentioned in job post, as we said. If you find an exam and you think it's a good one, you look at the exam content, you think it gives good, it's covered like, it covers the topics that you're interested in or the topics that you think are needed for the job. But if this exam is never mentioned in the job post, is not mentioned for any job that you want to apply for, then avoid this exam completely. And we'll see this in the things that you should actually do when you're looking for an exam. Only consider intermediate and advanced exam certifications, of course. As I said, the same amount of time you're going to spend to study for a junior exam is the amount of time you can spend studying for an intermediate or advanced level exam. And for complete newbies, intermediate, there's no reason they cannot get an intermediate level exam certificate. Another thing, and this is actually what you should do if you have no clue, if you just started in cybersecurity and don't know where to start from, you should go on LinkedIn and search for the job you want to get and see which exam, which certification is mentioned in the job description. And this is actually something you should actively do. So most people, what they do is they go on LinkedIn and they will search for a junior position or something easier, like maybe if you come from a non-tech job, you will search for IT help desk and think that, oh, maybe I can work a help desk job first and then I can move into cyber. Or maybe they search for a junior analyst position, like very non-technical position or low technical position, right? If your dream job is to become a penetration tester, like most people that I know, just search for penetration tester job. There's no reason for you to search for junior or IT help desk. Search for penetration tester and see what are the job requirements. See in the description what certificate they ask for, and doesn't matter like if they ask for experience or not. That doesn't matter, because you can build. The only thing that you need is to land an interview. If you have the basic skill and you have a certificate, then you're almost guaranteed to find a job. So the way this works is that you can always write something like you build experience doing labs for 1 year or something, right? As long as you know the basics and you have a certificate, the certificate is going to help you get into the radar of your employees. I can guarantee you that after you get the certificate, you will get messages asking you, messages from recruiter for open positions. So the certificate is needed to get you in there, and then you use the basic knowledge that you either developed by studying for the certificate or that you studied on your own. You don't need more than 3-4 months of studying for the basic knowledge anyway. You use the basic knowledge to pass the technical interview. So the certificate is what gets you in. The certificate is what will what will help you get the attention of recruiters. The basic knowledge is what is going to help you pass the technical interview. And as we discussed in another video, technical interview, they're very easy. It's actually very, very low level technical interview. I'm actually shocked on how easy the technical interview for pen testing jobs are. But we will discuss that in another video. So now let's have a look at the certification. I took this certificates roadmap. I'll add the link in the description. It's a bit outdated, but I think it's still one of the best out there. So if we look, for example, at pen testing certificates, if we go on here we can see that so these are the beginner level, these are intermediate, and then we have expert. So if we go into pen testing, which is what interests us and is the thing that I have experience with, I cannot give you a career recommendation for something like SOC because I've never done SOC. I've always been a penetration tester, so that's what I can advise you, and I can guarantee you that is easy. It's very easy. Some people think that getting into SOC or becoming an analyst is easier than becoming a pen tester, but that's not true. I became a pen tester with no tech experience, with no prior tech experience, in only 3 months. And if we look at the certificates, we will see. So all of these are junior. First of all, you never see any serious employer mention this in any job description. So you should avoid all these. These are all junior. So where I would say you should start. So if you still are convinced that you cannot get a job with an intermediate level certificate, or you cannot land a job anything else other than a junior, so there are some exams you can still consider, which are in between the beginner and the intermediate level. Things like EJPT, and what else we have here? Right, okay, so EJPT will be like the best junior level certificate, I will say. Then you have sort of at the beginning of the intermediate level OSWA, which is a very good certificate. This is from OFSAC, and this is actually what I have done when the certificate that I went for when I first joined cybersecurity. The reason is because OSWA is a PEN 200 exam from OFSAC, which is the same level as OSCP, but the difference is that OSWA is only focused on web apps, which are way easier, so you have no AD, only web apps on OSWA. And I recommend most people that go from a complete beginner, I recommend them to go for something like OSWA because it's from OFSAC, it's recognized because of OFSAC name and everything, and it's better than anything else that you find below here. So anything below OSWA you can consider like worse than this exam, and it's a very easy exam to pass. And if you want to cheat the exam, you can actually buy all the write-ups for the machine that you're going to get in the exam, so it's very easy, and even complete newbies are clearing this exam. Then if we look at some intermediate level exams, what I recommend, so this all depends. Some of the most popular are EWPT, CPENT, what else we have? BSCP, I usually don't recommend it that much, but it depends on where you live. I know that some countries, they actually values exam like BSCP, so it all depends on what you find when you go on LinkedIn for the job you're going to search for in your country. You have to look at what exam is mentioned the most, and it needs to be an intermediate or advanced level exam. If you're a complete newbie, just go for an intermediate one. And what else we have here that is good? GPEN is also recognized in some countries. Not where I live, this exam, honestly where I live, only OFSEC, and then you have some government exam as well. Only those are widely recognized, but it depends on where you live. I know that some countries in Asia, they actually have different exams that they value. And then you have OSCP, which is the golden goose of the exam. And if you look at this, it looks like OSCP is between the intermediate and expert level, but that's actually not true. OSCP is one of the most overrated exam out there. It's a good one because it will help you land a good job. It will help you land that 100K salary, 100K plus, let's say, salary, fantastic job. But you can also land that 100K plus job with OSWA alone. So the one we discussed before, only web app. You can also land a 100K job with OSWA. But OSCP, of course, is the most recognized, the most popular out there, and is so overrated. So many people, if you go out and search, they will tell you how difficult it is, how people like spend 3 years of experience, have 3 years of experience and still didn't pass. That's to show you how low is the level. There are newbies that are passing OSCP in 3-4 months of studying, but then when you go out there on LinkedIn or something, you see people saying that they studied for 3 years before they done OSCP, or that they failed 3-4 times before they got their OSCP. That's how low the competition level is. OSCP is not a difficult exam by any means. Is one of the most cheated and is very easy to pass. Even if you don't cheat, even if you don't want to use my service, which I have Telegram for in the description, I'll help you get the exam either by doing a remote service or by giving you the solution of the machines. Even if you don't want to go for the cheating route, but I always recommend that you should, not because cheating is good, but because this is the competition you are working against now. There are hundreds of people that are cheating this exam, and if you want to go the slower route and you want to work in the industry for 3 years before you get to OSCP, you will not going to be competitive in this industry. So it's a very easy exam. It's nothing more than a glorified CTF. The thing about the exam that is interesting is actually, unlike other expert level exam from OFSEC, OSCP for some reason have rotating machines, so not every exam will have the same machine, and there are more than 45 standalone machines that are rotating. And the thing is that you cannot know which machine you get before you start the exam, and that's very interesting. They do this for OSCP, but they don't do it for OSAP, for example, which is an expert level. OSAP, actually, you can buy the write-up for the machine before you even start the exam, because the machines are not rotating. So OSCP is one that I always recommend, and the price is definitely in the highest. I believe is 1,700 to buy the exam voucher that include like 3 months of lab, 90 days of lab access, 19 or 30, and it's an expensive exam. But what happened after you do this exam? You imagine spending 1,700 for an exam, and then you land a 100K job. You have to consider this as an investment. So if you're working, especially for people that are working and they want to move, they're working a non-tech job and they want to move into cybersecurity, you should consider this 1,700 as an investment. And after you get this exam, you have a very high chance to land 100K plus job with the starting salary of 100K plus. That's for US. In other countries, for example, in my country, the salaries start way lower than 100K. But if you live in the US, salary for good pen testing jobs start around 100K per year, and anything that is above this will be considered like expert level. EWPTX is a good one, OSWE also, or OSAP, but this I only recommend this type of exam if you have some sort of experience in the industry. Let's say you have been working as a pen tester. Let's say you cheat your way into cybersecurity. You get OSCP or OSWA or any of these other exams based on what actually is recognized in your country, what employers are looking for in your country. And after 1 to 2 years of experience in the industry, you can go for any of these expert level certificate. You don't need 6-7 years of experience. You don't need a decades of experience in the industry. You don't need years of studying. I can guarantee you everything is easy. This exam, you have newbies doing them, so it doesn't really matter. And if you want to cheat the exam, you can always do that easily. But I always recommend to cheat an exam only if you can at least back up the knowledge if you're on an interview. So let's say, for example, you go for OSCP, you just started cybersecurity, but you don't study the basics, so you don't have any knowledge of pen testing or anything, and you go for OSCP, and then you land an interview, but you cannot even answer like basic questions. First of all, the interview level is very low. So if you study the basics, you should be able to clear any pen testing interview, especially if it's your first job as a pen tester. The employer that you will attract is the only employer that are looking for a low level skill. And if you don't have the technical skill, if you don't have the knowledge of the basics, you will never be able to land a technical interview. So you should only go for an exam that you think you will be able to back on an interview, which you could back all the exams. It's just a matter of how much you want to study the basics, how confident you are in your knowledge of the basics. That's why I recommend something like OSWA. Is a very good one because it's very easy to back up the knowledge of web application pen testing. The vulnerabilities are widely available out there. They're easy to understand, and for any of these exams, like let's say until OSCP level, you can cover the basic just by going to a platform like TryHackMe and pay $10 a month to enroll in the junior pen tester learning path that they have, and that will cover everything that you need to know to nail your first technical interview. And that's it. If you need help with your exam, with your cybersecurity exam, my Telegram is in the description. I can give you, I set the solution for this exam, or I also do a remote exam service where I take the entire exam for you, so you make sure that you pass. This service actually you only pay after I finish the exam, so you know that you passed. And if you're interested, I see you in there.